Are you enjoying the game today too? Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take the source material you provided and turn it into instant, usable knowledge. And today, we are going deep into the game that really built a franchise. Rockman 2, Dr. Wily no Nazo.
That's right.
And yes, we are reading that as the number Rockman 2 because this title is numerically number 1 in the hearts of so many fans.
It's the foundational text, really. This deep dive is so necessary because this game, released on the Famicom, the family computer on Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1988, by Capcom, is basically the blueprint for every Rockman that came after.
The history here is just incredible. The sources all emphasize they pulled off a genuine miracle. This is only the second entry, and yet it was famously developed in, what, only 3 months?
Just 3 months. Often by staff working nights while they were supposed to be supporting other projects. It's kind of an insane story.
Right.
They took a concept, the difficult 6-boss original, and under this immense time pressure, delivered a sequel that was so revolutionary that the PlayStation port, decades later, was still being tagged as the series' masterpiece.
So our mission today is pretty clear then. We need to unpack exactly why. Why did this rushed sequel manage to transform the series from this difficult curiosity into a global phenomenon? We're hunting for those specific changes, both mechanical and psychological.
We're going to show you how they simultaneously made the game more accessible and yet somehow even more brutally strategic. I think we all remember playing this as children.
Oh, yeah.
The first game was fascinating, but it was often just, unfair. This one felt like the developers finally cared a little bit about our sanity.
Mostly. But let's start with the narrative setup. Last time, Rockman stopped Dr. Wily's world domination scheme. But Wily, as villains tend to do, was completely undeterred.
Not at all. He comes back immediately and unleashes not 6, but 8 new, powerful robot masters on the world. And just bumping it up to 8 bosses immediately expanded the scale.
And the character design here is where the developers started having a chaotic, wonderful time.
Totally. 8 new nightmares.
And these guys have some seriously strange official profiles sourced from the Rockman Forte database that we absolutely need to get into. Let's start with the one who gives you the most overpowered weapon ever, Metal Man.
Right. DWN.009. It's Dr. Wily number 9. And Metal Man, with his ceramic titanium saw blades, is designed for fast, precise work. He's a genius, apparently.
Okay.
Yet his hobbies are, well, they're contradictory. He loves Frisbee, and he hates dogs.
Wait. He hates dogs. He's covered in deadly saw blades. Is he going to be a future dentist or like a futuristic lumberjack? What kind of chaotic personality quirks did Wily engineer into these things?
It makes no sense. But that's the charm, is that contrast. Then you have Airman, DWN.01 there, the robot with that huge integrated chest fan.
That design became a prototype for later models, right?
It did. And he's characterized as, throwing his seniority around, but he has one mortal enemy, Autumn Leaves.
Okay, now that actually makes a perverse kind of sense for an air-based robot. A clog in his giant chest propeller is probably like a severe existential crisis for him.
And we cannot forget Bubble Man, DWN.011. He was the first human-shaped underwater robot Wily made. The problem: due to a manufacturing defect, he can't actually walk.
He can't walk?
Nope, he can only move by bouncing and jumping around.
And here is the peak of it all. Wily himself, after seeing this fundamental flaw that makes his robot kind of useless for underwater conquest, reportedly found the site cute.
The mad scientist found the functional defect in his war machine cute.
I love it.
And finally, Quickman, DWN.012. The speed maniac who naturally hates turtles.
Of course he does.
He was based on a Luckman from the first game, but just optimized for pure speed. Classic villain trope: be fast, be menacing, and hate anything slow.
Okay, let's move out of the goofy personalities and into the true game changers.
Yeah.
The foundational system fixes that address the crushing frustrations of the first game.
The biggest quality of life feature, the one that fundamentally changed player psychology, has to be the stockable energy can.
The E-Tank.
The E-Tank. It allowed for full life recovery at any time, and you could carry a maximum of 4.
An absolute lifesaver. I remember feeling like I had a safety blanket, although I think the manual just called it an energy pack back then, right?
That's right, the E-Tank name came later. But that little blue can, it redefined risk in the game. It converted health from just a depleting meter into a managed resource.
It's an investment.
Exactly. You weren't just fighting the level, you were managing an investment. Knowing you had 4 full heals meant you could take calculated risks that were just suicidal in the first game. It gave players confidence.
And to save those precious E-tanks, we needed a better way to save progress, so we got the password system.
Which was so much better than the long text strings in games like, say, Dragon Quest II.
Oh, those were the worst. One wrong letter and you're done.
Right. Rockman 2 introduced that really original visual 5x5 grid where you place 9 red chips. Because it was spatial, it just drastically reduced the writing mistake problem. You could look at it and instantly see if a dot was in the wrong square.
It was great design, visually clear, really fast. But we have to remember the caveat. It saved your E-tanks, but it always reset your lives back to 3.
Always. But the single most relieving mechanical fix, the one that saved countless controllers from being thrown, was the overhaul of damage invincibility.
Tell me about the spikes, the instant death spikes.
In the first game, if you took damage and were flashing, getting knocked back onto spikes still killed you, instantly.
It was so infuriating.
It was unreasonable, but Rockman 2 fixed this. Taking damage now grants a short, true period of invincibility. You could actually pass through the spikes while flashing.
Thank goodness. It felt like an apology note from the developers to our childhood sanity. It meant the difficulty was intentional, not based on some frustrating glitch.
And we also saw the introduction of the item system. These were basically the prototypes for Rush, Rockman's future dog partner.
Right, there were 3 of them. Item 1 was the ascending platform.
Item 3 was the bouncy wall climbing one.
And item 2 was the high-speed jet platform.
Which is clearly the direct spiritual prototype for the iconic Rush jet that would become a series standard.
And these weren't just fun toys. They were necessary. You needed them to get hidden items or, to skip those awful flashing, disappearing blocks.
The boon blocks, yeah. They added a whole layer of strategic movement.
And one major difference we have to highlight, especially for our listeners who grew up with the global release, the overseas NES version, Mega Man 2, had a difficulty selection.
This is critical. The experience was fundamentally different for a lot of players outside of Japan. You had normal, where enemy defense was halved so your damage felt doubled.
And
then you had difficult, which was just the original uncompromising Japanese version. It shows Capcom making a conscious choice to ease the American audience into it, soften the blow.
So all these fixes, the E-tank, the password grid, the spike invincibility, they all built up player confidence. But that confidence was about to be utterly dismantled when you finally got to Dr. Wily's castle.
Yes, they were preparing you for the ultimate test. So now let's get into the game's evaluation points. The brilliant stuff, the controversial stuff, and the outright design flaws that we just love to hate.
Let's start with the brilliant controversy. The metal blade. If you were a kid and you got this weapon, you instantly became a god.
The metal blade is legendary for being completely beautifully broken, insanely low energy cost, it fires in 8 directions, and it often does more damage than your normal buster. You can basically use it for the whole game.
It was so overpowered. It was the weakness for 3 different bosses. And here's the best part. It was the weakness for Metal Man himself.
And here's the kicker, the developers confirmed it. It kills him in exactly 2 shots. It was an intentional hidden strategy. But you're right, it created this extreme weapon imbalance.
But wait, you call it a flaw, but wasn't that the whole point? The first game was pure masochism. Rockman 2 gives you a god mode weapon, even if it's limited. It was fun. Doesn't that high-low balance define the game's charm?
Oh, it absolutely defines the charm, but it made balancing the rest of the weapons nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Though, speaking of fun, remember that exploit.
The weapons select screen 1.
Yeah. With the low-cost weapons like the metal blade or quick boomerang, you could fire without using energy if you just open and close the menu really, really fast.
Pure, chaotic, beautiful nonsense. Now, what about the deliberate traps?
Plenty of those. Like the leaf shield problem. You use Woodman's shield for defense, but if you try it against Airman, his air shooter just repels it right back at you. A true first-time player killer moment.
And this is where all that confidence the E-tanks built up just shatters the Wily stage difficulty spike. Unlike the first game, your weapon energy does not refill between Wily stages.
This is the genius and the cruelty of Rockman 2. Suddenly you're forced into this tedious, agonizing strategic management. If you ran low on crash bombs, you had to backtrack and just grind on tiny enemies, hoping for a weapon energy drop.
It felt like running a marathon, reaching the finish line, and then realizing you had to run back 3 miles just to grab a water bottle. And that tension just boils over in Wily Stage 4 with the boo beam trap.
The ultimate resource check. This boss, it's 5 cannons, and you have to destroy them, and 2 mandatory walls to even reach them. and all 7 of those targets can only be damaged by the crash bomb.
And you have to use exactly 7 crash bombs with perfect surgical efficiency.
If you misfire even once, or waste one on a wall you didn't need to break, you're stuck. You literally cannot proceed. The only way forward is to trigger a game over.
Which restores your weapon energy, but tragically, it also resets all your valuable save E-tanks back to 0.
It's a brutal, brutal design choice. You have to sacrifice your recovery items just to buy another chance at one specific gate check. That is high-stakes gameplay right there.
Moving into the endgame then. The Wily stages themselves were just inventive nightmares. We saw these massive scrolling bosses, like the Mecha Dragon in Wily Stage 1.
Which was basically just a giant menacing hydrogen balloon. And then you had the Guts tank, this huge tank based on Gutsman.
But the boss rush was a huge improvement. The 8 robot masters were in a dedicated room, the Dr. Wily teleport system. And you could choose the order, plus they dropped big energy refills. It was much more manageable.
But then, the final fight.
Yeah.
The alien. This was maybe the most demanding puzzle boss in the entire game. But we later learned it's just a hologram projector.
And it is only susceptible to one weapon, the Bubble Weed. If you hit it with literally any other attack,
including your standard buster,
you completely refill its health bar.
Again, it's forcing you into that perfect resource management. If you ran out of bubble lead energy, you had to accept a game over, lose your E-tanks, and try again. The entire endgame is built around forcing that sacrifice.
The aftermath and legacy are just massive. Despite the short development time, the ending sequence was so high quality. That nonverbal narrative of Rockman walking home through the seasons, it's still iconic.
And some great trivia. After his red UFO was destroyed in the first game, Wily redesigned it into the blue one we all know. Fans called it the Bluelet because of its shape, and that design became his standard escape vehicle forever.
But the game's impact went so far beyond the console, it's a cultural touchstone. The music for Dr. Wily Stage 1 is probably the most iconic 8-bit theme ever. It spawned the fan song Omkui Wakuzamen.
And we can't forget Airman Gatausanai, or Airman Cannot Be Defeated. That fan song just perfectly demonstrates the enduring collective trauma and love that fans have for this game's difficulty.
So what does it all mean? Rockman 2 provided the core framework for the entire series, the 8 bosses, the E-tank, the password system, and a fundamentally fairer difficulty curve.
It worked because it perfectly balanced that accessibility, from the E-tank and the spike fix, with the brutal high-stakes resource management you needed for the Wily stages. It became a game where skill was rewarded, but perfection and foresight were required.
Which it raises an important question for you to think about. How does modern game design approach difficulty now that things like E-tanks and unlimited lives are basically commonplace? Did the forced scarcity and brutal checkpoints of Rockman 2, that necessity of risking your saved E-tanks to progress, did that actually enhance the experience and make the victory that much sweeter than in modern games where scarcity is often just engineered out entirely?
That is the ultimate test of game design philosophy. Will the game be fun tomorrow too? Have a nice game.